Okay, we're recording live.
Thank you so much for checking in, everybody. Today, our guest, she has led 7,000 executives and entrepreneurs to volunteer as mentors to around 9,000 incarcerated men, women, and youth who have all graduated from her Hustle 2.0 program. She was also an author. Her book, A Second Chance for You, for Me, and for the Rest of Us, a powerful reflection on the struggles and triumphs of her journey and her graduates' journeys. Please welcome Kat Hoke. Hey, Kat, how you doing today?
Hi, Devin. I'm doing awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I just want to clarify that those 9,000 graduates have come from 3 programs that I've started. Not all from Hustle 2.0. Yeah.
Wow, that
is just incredible. That's
amazing. Yeah, you're a powerhouse. You're a powerhouse woman. We like to highlight powerhouse women. On our show here, we've had a ton, and you're just like at the very, very top. So I thank you so much for coming, Kat. You know,
it's an honor to be here with you guys.
Thank pleasure. You. Now, not to embarrass you or anything. At the beginning of every show, we do something called a bunch of truths and a lie. And so there's a bunch of truths and a lie, not just 3. There's a bunch of truths and a lie. And I'm going to read some things out, and Devin and I are going to try and guess which is the lie here. So number one, I was the only girl on the high school wrestling team and also a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter. Ooh, don't want to. Okay. Yeah, dark alleys, stay away from. Okay. When I was 18, I ran away from the cops and actually got away. Okay, that's another one.
Got the speed.
Got the speed going. Number 3, I sew all my clothes and am an extreme quilter. Wow, that's contrary to the other 2.
I'm not supposed to comment, right?
No, you're not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, sure. Okay, and then next one here. Kat works with gang leaders in the most notorious prisons, leading gang intervention programs. Okay, another one here. Seth Godin published her best-selling book, A Second Chance, for You, for Me, and for the Rest of Us. Man, that's crazy. And last one here. Fast Company named Kat one of the 100 most creative people in business, and Forbes named her on the 40 women to watch out for over 40. I would never say that you were over 40, but maybe that's the lie.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, Dev, what do you?
Good one.
Yeah, what are you thinking, Dev? What are you thinking?
Oh man, okay, so let's go. I'm not too sure here. Let's go with believe in the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling.
Oh, really?
For sure. I think you're tough for sure. You definitely ran away from the cops when you're 18 and made it. I think everyone's got a story like that. The extreme quilter. I don't know. It just kind of doesn't fit. Not saying that I don't think that you could be, but I don't know if it really fits in with the rest of these things. So I'm going to take I sew all my clothing and I'm an extreme quilter.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of really wild stuff here. The quilting. I mean, you never know. It's that
you never know.
The yin and the yang.
It's a very useful skill. It's a thing that could. But yeah. I don't know.
I agree. I think it's the quilting too. So, Kat, what do you?
Well, I am really impressed because you did in fact find the lie in that. Now, what I will say though, I am an extreme quilter and I spend nearly all my free time quilting, doing art quilting. Like I paint on quilts, but the lie part of it is that it said I sew all my clothes. And the truth is I sew nearly all my clothes. But for example, I didn't sew the polo shirt that I'm wearing today.
Damn.
Yeah.
And everything else on there is true. Which is absolutely
correct. So let's touch it. Let's go back to a few of these then. What was high school wrestling and jiu-jitsu? When did you get into doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling? Just like before high school? Or?
I walked onto the boys wrestling team. I can trace that back to a high school crush, and it wasn't even my own crush. It was a girlfriend's crush. And she wanted to go watch the boy on the team. I went because I was just a good friend. The coach told the boys to go run a mile around the track. And I was raised by a father who said, we are not spectators. Get off the sidelines and do something about it. So I was like, I'm not going to sit here and watch the boys run a mile. I ran with them, and the coach said, "Why don't you come in and stretch with us?" I did, and the rest is history. I mean, but not the history I wanted to make. I set the school's record for getting pinned the most and the fastest, and that's where I developed my very intense ability to be humiliated and ridiculed. The football players would totally laugh about me as I was running around the track. And my parents disapproved of my decision to be the first girl on the wrestling team. And that's where I feel like I decided that I was not going to allow other people's opinions about my life dictate my future. And I'm glad I didn't listen. I ended up coming back. There's something about getting your ass beat and getting back up and coming back for more day after day. And I mean, in my first year, I set the school's record for getting pinned the most and the fastest. And then I came back and had a winning record with the boys my second year and became a women's California State wrestling champion as well.
Oh, holy
So
Oh.
proceeding into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was only a natural thing for me.
Oh my gosh.
That is wicked.
Man,
awesome.
Dev, you did some Muay Thai in northern Thailand in the jungle and some crazy thing, didn't you? Like a long time.
Oh, it's different than the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling and stuff though. If you got good ground, you can't do anything. Like, I mean, if you got good ground, like somebody who's got good stand-up game can't do anything to you because you just grab them, wrap them up, and throw them to the ground and destroy them. Right. So
Yes.
wow, that's like the
That's what they say
jiu-jitsu
about
is the
jiu-jitsu, yes, and it's a great sport, especially because I was not competitive from a strength standpoint against boys, and wrestling was much more strength dependent. Jiu-jitsu is more
technique,
momentum and technique, and that ground game was really
That's wicked.
Yep.
That's wicked. Oh my gosh. Okay. So little moving forward, but also moving back. Okay. So what happened when we were 18 running away from the cops?
Dev's all over this. He's all over this.
Oh, these are great.
These are great. I know.
I think we have a lot of other things to talk about today.
Skip. Okay.
It's not as exciting as it sounds, but I say that to try to have some street cred.
Yeah. She stole an ice cream, you know.
I did. I will say this. I jumped out of a second-story parking garage, landed in the leaves, and sprinted down the street and hid. Yeah.
It's getting crazier by the
second
here.
But I didn't even commit a crime. I just ran. So anyway. Okay.
Oh man. So yeah, it we could just veer off into these crazy tangents. It's just like Joe Rogan kind of go off into talk about MMA and jiu-jitsu all day. So I
love it.
You're like I said, you're incredible, and I saw you as a speaker. You were a speaker that came to a class, entrepreneurial conclave that I attend at MIT in Boston, and you absolutely blew my mind with your story. And a bunch of us went. You invited a bunch of us to participate in a program that you created called Hustle 2.0. And it was inside a maximum security prison, and it was in the high deserts of California, just on the border of Nevada. And so my wife, Reiko, and I went with some of those entrepreneurs, and I got to tell you that I was actually really scared to go inside this maximum security prison. And the really cool thing, because I think it's the persona of, we all think of them as, criminals and all these things. And you mentioned that they're incarcerated. They were men in this prison. So it was incarcerated men, and which really kind of changed everything for me. But I was nervous. I got to say that I was nervous stepping in there. And the really cool thing is that you just mentioned is that when that was about 18 months or 2 years ago that we took place, that you were working in 2 prisons. And now, as of yesterday, you're in 100 prisons, which is absolutely helping these incarcerated men and women get their lives back. When they get out.
Yeah, we're even in some youth jails and prisons.
Yeah. So I guess flashback. What got you interested in helping incarcerated people? How did you? Because you're 2 feet in. You're absolutely 2 feet in and more into what you're doing now. And what made that shift? What made you think about doing this?
So when I was 26, I left a Wall Street career. I was
Yeah.
working in venture capital and private equity,
Yeah.
and I left that for prison. And it wasn't another Wall Street scandal. I was invited on a prison tour for 3 days out in Texas. And I also was scared when I was invited to go. And I went to death row and I went to multiple prisons. And I was terrified because I think that is natural when we other
Yes.
another population or another group. So when we think that they are criminals and we are wonderful people, we think that they will want to hurt us or could want to hurt us. But the reason that I left a really amazing career is because I could see really early, at a young age, by 26, I was on a trajectory to do really well in my career. But when I looked at so many of the partners that I worked for and the CEOs who seemed to have it all, I went around asking them the question, if you died today, why would your life matter? And because I wanted to get the answer for that for myself. Like, what is the point of dying with a big old stack of money? Because I could see that all the money in the world didn't seem to make that many people happy. It seemed to make them very worried about their possessions. And it seemed like sometimes their happiness or their joy in life fluctuated with their bank account or the stock market.
Right.
So I was inspired by a few CEOs who I met who seemed to have answers that worked for them to that question, if you died today, why would your life matter? And those who did, like a guy named Chuck said, it's not about me and it's about my successes. Look at how I've used my access, my resources, and my companies to create opportunities for others. And he was able to share one story of another of investing in human beings and giving them chances. And so I started to conclude that, if you're just chasing a buck for your own good, that might not be satisfying. And so then I started to look around and say yes to uncomfortable opportunities, because I realized that if I stayed in my comfort zone, I may never get there. But if I started to say yes and explore outside the box ways to make a difference, that maybe one day I would find my calling or my purpose. And I didn't think that meant that I had to jump ship from making money.
Right.
I never in a million years thought it would be prison related, because when I was 12, a good friend of mine was brutally murdered. And I have personally been a victim of crime, of sexual crime. And so I thought anyone in prison was the scum of the earth. So it came kind of as a shock. Yeah, I was very scared as well. And that's because I dehumanized people before I went to prison and realized that they are human beings who have made bad decisions just like you and I have.
I know. And when we came out, like we were only there, I think we were inside 2 days, and it was a life-changing experience. And when we came out, we came back to Vancouver, and Reiko and I, we went for breakfast. We sat outside and we had breakfast, and we were just talking the whole time about the experience. And a friend walked up and he says, "Hey guys, what were you doing? How was your weekend?" And I'm like, it was interesting. And he says, "Oh yeah, what'd you do?" I said, "Well, we went down to California, Northern California, and we volunteered inside a maximum security prison." And he was just like, oh, those scumbags should be in there for life, whatever. And then he walked away, and I was like, oh my God, you know what? I think that probably would have been my answer as well on Thursday. Before the weekend. And the experience that you gave us, where we, like, you asked me if I was scared or not. Well, we entered all the check and the gates and everything, and the metal detectors going inside, and then you get inside the yard, and then you go inside the blocks, and the door to the block was open, and there was a bunch of us outside that were going to come in, and all these we thought criminals were there, now incarcerated men. I've changed my view on that. We walked in, and the energy in the room and the appreciation for us coming in, and it was all, and they were all there, and we were going in, and we would break off, and they would introduce themselves, and they were so nervous. They were so nervous. They were shaking, and I was nervous, and they were nervous, and they're welcoming us in. And then, your program, started. And from that second on, things really started to shift inside all of us. And, I've got other stuff I could share, but, your program with, the incarcerated, the men, was just absolutely mind-boggling. Maybe I should just throw up a couple of little photos, so then people can kind of get a flavor of, what. Oh, I have to do the slide. Where did we go? Where did you guys?
While you're finding those,
Yeah,
I'll say that for your audience for this podcast, anyone who is skeptical
yeah,
about all of this, the people that I specialize in serving are people who have committed violent crime. And
yes,
most of them are gang members. And the people that I serve have destroyed communities. Some of them have taken people's lives. And I absolutely believe that society is became safer when they got taken off of the streets and were incarcerated. And so it's not, I don't think like, oh, we should let the prison gates swing open and let
yeah,
everyone just run out. When
yeah,
people want to hurt other people, then those of us who don't want to hurt others should be protected from people who want to hurt us.
yeah.
And so prison, a timeout for people can be important. However, it's called corrections. It's called the field of corrections. And
Yes,
unfortunately, there's almost nothing corrective about it. And the reality is that America sentences people more harshly than just about any country in the world. We're the only country in the world that routinely sentences children to life in prison.
I know.
Nearly everyone that you met in prison that day was a child when they got sentenced to life. And they have made terrible and violent decisions.
Yes, yes.
People do change though. And the reality too is that only 5% of people who are in prison actually are never released. The other 95% come back out to society. And so as citizens, we get to decide who we want coming home. Do we want people who have been rehabilitated, or do we want
Mm-hmm.
people who have been treated like wild animals and poked with a stick, who then come out, have no skills, no opportunities, and go back to the only thing that they've ever known, which is a life of crime? When with the programs the 3 programs that I've started
Yes.
that have served thousands of people with the highest risk profiles,
Yeah.
they have proven, validated return to prison rates of less than 8%.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
So
incredible.
we have a choice on what we do when we deem that somebody messes up. And what I ask people all the time is, what if you were only known for the worst thing you've ever done?
Yes, yes.
We have all made bad decisions in our lives. And I bet that the majority of your audience has driven a vehicle after drinking one too many.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
if you had accidentally hit a family of 4, you could have been a killer. You could have killed 4
Yeah.
innocent people that night.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. When we were in, and we chatted with some of these guys, like I was shocked by the age, that a lot of them were very young, and a lot of them have been in there for a long period of time. And some of them were shy, and some of them didn't want to talk about their past, but some of them really opened up after, this, especially the second day. And the circumstances that these, most of them came from was horrific. Being born into, whatever, a gang family, being born inside prison. Some were born inside a prison. Their
yeah,
mother was in prison, and running away from home and getting picked up under a bridge, brought into a gang because they had nowhere else to go. And because you're the low man on the totem pole, you got to go and do something terrible, and the next thing you know, you're in prison, or for life. And the story after the story after the story, and
yeah,
I reflect on that. I mean, it could be you, it could be me, it could be Devin. in
Yeah.
that circumstance. It could be
Well,
any.
what we teach is that they made choices, but they had choices. Sometimes it feels like we don't have a choice, and they made a choice. And making a violent choice is never a good choice.
No, no.
So, do you want me to share a quick story?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the women that I've served, her name is Brittany, and Brittany committed not just one murder but double murder, and she was tried for the death penalty. And the DA and society says that she's a monster and she has
Yeah.
life in prison. So sometimes people hear that rap sheet and then they don't care to hear the backstory. They don't get
Right.
curious about any backstory. It's like it doesn't matter. Someone who took 2 lives. And I never, she made bad choices and she could have handled her decisions in a very different way. But try for a second to put yourself in Brittany's shoes. Brittany's mother was a drug addict, and her mother was dating a guy. The boyfriend was her drug supplier, and she didn't want to lose her drug supply. So the mother, stood by and watched day after day as the boyfriend raped Brittany in
Yeah.
her room. And so the mother sat there and watched. And at the age of 13, Brittany found herself impregnated by the boyfriend.
Yeah.
She told her mother when the boyfriend found out, the boyfriend beat Brittany nearly to death, caused her to miscarry. Brittany, after continued violence and abuse, Brittany felt like her life was on the line, and she took both of their lives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she, at 13, now she's, I think, 28 years old. She's been incarcerated for 15 years, more than half of her life. And she
Yes.
unfortunately believes what society and that prosecutors say about her, that she is a monster. But if I was Brittany's guardian angel, if you were, would you
Yeah.
say to Brittany, like, you are rotten and you deserve nothing good in your life and you are irredeemable? Or would you tell her, even from behind bars, you are capable of living a life of dignity and purpose? You can make a difference in the lives of other incarcerated people.
Yeah.
You are forgivable, Brittany. And if you could find yourself telling Brittany that, could you tell yourself that for some of the worst decisions that you have made? Because what I find is we're quick to condemn other people, yet sometimes what is under that quickness to condemn others is that we're so quick to condemn ourselves.
Yes. Yes. I
Holy smokes.
That's a
Okay, so we're wrapping the interview at that because I can't take anymore. Oh my gosh.
on that note there, you hit something. So and I just happened to throw like this picture, and there's a picture, and there's a gentleman here that I'm talking to. He was one. We did these little breakout sessions because they had it was almost like Dragon's Den. They were doing a little business pitch to start a little business. It could have been a food truck. It could have been, but something simple to build up to when they got out. And this gentleman I was talking to, I said, so, what's your pitch? He says, well, it's not really a business. I really want to work with youth. I want to help as many youth as I possibly can not end up in the situation that I'm in. But he says, but because I'm a criminal, I've done horrible things. There's no way in a million years that I have any value or I could ever get a job like that. And I thought, hang on a second here. Out of all the people that are going to apply to a job for a job like that or help, you have the most experience and like the most and can have the most empathy to work with people like that. So really don't count yourself out. And I really found that a lot of them had that, that low kind of self-esteem because of who they were in the past, right? And they were desperately trying to make change. And so yeah, it's yeah.
When it's not just a low self-esteem because of what they've done in the past, but when you are called state property and
Give it a number.
you are called a criminal every day, and you are a number,
Right.
and you are told, what things that society says about you. It's very hard not to believe that when that's the conversation all day long. And
Right.
what I wish people out here would realize is we are all criminals. A criminal is someone who has committed a crime. And like I said earlier, if you've driven after having one too many, you've committed a crime. So you are a criminal at some point. If you held weed if you were in possession of weed,
Yes.
before it was legal, you have been a criminal too. Just like other people. Now, the people that I serve have definitely committed heinous crimes, violent crimes. And again,
Yeah.
I don't make excuses for that. But the criminal justice system is set up so that there's a debt to pay, and
Yes.
you do your time,
To
and
pay.
then after you get out, how many of us
What skills
would
do you
want to
have?
permanently suffer from the consequences and think about the labels? Like if you ever were not an active father, if you were ever an alcoholic, how many of us want to be known permanently for those labels for the rest of our lives? And when we go fill out a job application or
Yeah.
try to rent an apartment, that's the first thing that we have to disclose is
Yeah.
the mistake that we made or the bad decision that we made 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. You talk a lot about second chances.
Yeah.
When you talk, and it's
So what's
that-
some of the, I was just wondering, yeah. So like, what are some of the exercises that you run with these people? And then what do you want to get out of it, or what do they get out of it?
Yeah. Well, so just as it's easy for people in society to other people in prison, it's easy for people in prison to other people outside of prison. So
yes.
when you said that they were terrified of all of you coming in, they were so nervous, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And so the exercises that we run, aside from the business mentoring and where you do mock interviews and the volunteers get in the role of being an employer or a parole board commissioner, where you're helping to ask them very tough questions about their future, or as an investor, because many of our mavericks, as we call them, have
Yes.
entrepreneurial aspirations. The other exercises really center around our shared humanity, around bonding in our shared humanity. And this is an exercise that I also do with executive groups, like I did when I came out to speak to your group in Boston.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I ask a whole series of questions, and then you step up or you raise your hand if the question is true for you. And these are questions about things like, I don't have the courage to be disliked, or I have made decisions in my past that I regret, or there are some things I have not forgiven myself for. And I find that nearly maybe 95% of very successful entrepreneurs will step up on that one. There are things I have not forgiven myself for, or there are things that I have not forgiven somebody else for. And I feel like the most important message that I can share in my life is around forgiveness, because
Right.
I bet every person who's listening to this podcast is on it because you are investing in yourself, hoping for a better future. And when we
Right.
choose not to forgive ourselves or live with a resentment of not forgiving somebody else, we are shackling ourselves to the past.
Right. Right.
So
Well,
I teach people how to forgive in these exercises in prison.
one of these exercises that you did with us was was the line one, when we're all in the
Yes.
line, and
Yeah.
we're paired up with one or two incarcerated. They were men, and so I'm standing on this line, and you're 2 or 3 feet apart. This is pre-COVID, and you are asking us questions, and you're basically saying, if this is true for you, stay on the line. If it's not, step back. So first one was, while you were a child, did you hear gunshots in the night when you're a child in your neighborhood? And the guy that I was standing, or two guys that I was standing across from, stayed online. I stepped back because I didn't hear gunshots when I was a kid. Next question was something like, were any of your family, murdered or something? So I stepped back, they stayed there. And it went on and on and on. And then it got to a question that absolutely, I got extremely emotional. I actually started crying. And you have to stare them in the eyes while you're doing this. And the question was, how many years have you spent in solitary confinement? And these were young people. And it was like 1 year. And he stood there. 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. And my body, I just staring him in the eyes, and I could see the emotion in his eyes. We were connected, and I just started shaking and crying like a baby. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's like, I know they've done horrible, horrible things, but they're being treated like to spend 6 years or 7 years or 8 in solitary confinement. Absolutely. it just shook my world. I never ever will forget that exercise that you did with us. And
Yeah, I tell people, imagine being stuck in an elevator without your cell phone for a whole hour, and
yeah,
now a whole day.
Jesus.
And they slide you some food through a slot, and now imagine being stuck in that elevator for a week with no communication
yeah,
in a year, and I count up. And so
yeah,
my some of my co-authors at Hustle 2.0
yeah.
literally did 32 consecutive years in solitary confinement and were told that they would die in there, and that these laws have since been deemed to be inhumane. It took more than 32 years for that to happen. One of them did 40 years, and so yes, they made very bad decisions.
Yes.
But this is it's remarkable that a nation that says that we believe in second chances can treat human beings this way.
Yeah, I know.
And it's also remarkable to me that my incarcerated co-authors who did 32 consecutive years in solitary confinement choose, when given the opportunity, because I asked them that same question: if you died today, why would your life matter? And actually, one of the guys in this photo that you're showing right now,
Yeah, yeah.
he's not one of my incarcerated co-authors, but he did do more than 32 years in solitary. The guy who's right next to me with the mustache.
He was actually in our group. I remember him.
Yeah. And so for them just to be out with people smiling, talking, it's a challenge. But when I asked them the question about, you guys have these big scary rap sheets, and is that all you want to be known for? Like just for being a gangster and for hurting people? And they don't. And like one of my co-authors talks about how when he now is, since he's no longer in solitary, when he gets to go to visitation and he gets to sit with his granddaughter and he plays tea time with her, and she sees him as her pop. And I say, who do you want your grandmother, your granddaughter to remember you as? And so today they are working on creating different legacies. And I guess my message to everyone in your audience is, if these guys can do it, it's not too late for any of us.
Right.
Regardless of how we've messed up in our lives, there is always so much potential if we choose to give ourselves a chance. And what I talk about is that society, like in cancel culture today,
Yeah. Yeah.
society has definitely canceled the people that I work with. And I've been canceled by society in my life. But what I haven't done is cancel myself.
Right.
I've chosen to continue going. And these guys could also give up on themselves. And it would be very easy when you're locked in an elevator for 32 years to just give up on yourself altogether. So to have the courage to say, okay, maybe I do have something to offer, that takes courage.
Yeah.
And that's courage that I respect.
Yeah. And your program is intense. Like, it's not just a little flip book it's a very intense program. And it's really exciting because I think the group almost 2 years ago, they graduated like 3-4 weeks ago from your program.
Yeah,
So
it was
really, I mean, it's a long,
yeah,
tough
it took
process.
more than 2 years. It's 4,500 pages of curriculum. And at the end of it, they get a college certificate from Southern Utah University, which is a big whoop for them because many of them didn't graduate from high school. They were incarcerated before, and they dropped out of high school because they were gang members. And so now they are, some of them are in their 30s and their 40s. And one of the guys in this photo is in his 50s, and he is deciding to study again. And our topics are not easy topics. It's about looking at your childhood trauma and looking at owning your criminal history and victim awareness, and writing letters to your victims, showing your remorse and owning your complicity. When you are involved in a gang, it's not just what you did, it's also the way that you have fueled and contributed to something that is destroying society. So
Right.
they look
Right.
at that, and then not everyone, but most of them have the courage to say, I have been living this way for decades, and
Yeah.
I'm going to step up and call it wrong. How many of
Mhm.
us were raised with values or with opinions of things that we might not be proud of, but how many of us have the
Yeah.
courage to step away and to separate ourselves from decades
Right.
of doing something?
Yeah, yeah. And what I found was the passion and the honesty. Like there was a lot of honest passion that they really wanted to make a huge change. And they were so excited when they were pitching their businesses. They were just it was like they're little kids, and it was just so the energy was incredible, the passion was incredible, and the sincerity. I really, people go, oh, they were probably just putting on a mask just for, I honestly don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think that they were really honestly super excited about, starting their food truck or their tire business or whatever it was, some little thing to build up. When then they had their business plans all laid out, and they had to pitch it to us, and they were fully, like I said, they were too fit into this thing. They were absolutely committed to making a change. And it was really, for me, it was a mind-boggling going from that guy outside, really nervous, to coming in and having a totally different experience than I was expecting.
Here's
Totally.
my
Thank
question.
you. Thank you for
Yeah.
giving him a chance. Yes,
Yeah.
Wow.
Kevin.
Yeah, so now I was just wondering, like, so you said like they've been in there since they were like kids, right? And now they've got to come up with these business plans to pitch to you guys. Do any of them ever come up with things that are already existed that they didn't have any knowledge to the outside world, so they never really understood that that was a thing, or do they get a little bit of access to the internet and they can kind of know what's going on?
So there's no access to the internet. That
Right.
would be a security threat.
Right.
And so we provide them with rigorous entrepreneurship training. And we tell them that when you start a business idea, we're not here. You don't need to patent something, because patenting or coming up with an entirely novel idea, um, that often takes years. It's very expensive, and that's not what you need to do. What you need to do is solve a customer's pain, solve a problem, and make yourself useful.
Yes.
And so we teach them to take very simple ideas that they can run a minimum viable product for less than $100 to get it off the ground, because they don't have extensive bank accounts when they get out. They don't have all these other resources.
Right.
So we want them to be able to bootstrap the business and get it to positive cash flow really quickly. And over the last 18 years, the organizations I've started have now incubated and financed more than 500 companies started by formerly incarcerated people that have hired thousands of formerly incarcerated people. So these aren't just like little business ideas and little business dreams. They're actually viable concepts that work.
Wow.
Holy smoke.
I know. So it's, there's just so much of it. And this last slide here shows, the end of our 2 days, getting to know these gentlemen, and, just the excitement. There was just so much excitement after. And again, it was
That
completely
was the
contrary to
best
what
day
I
of many of their lives. So, they still, when they write The Office, they still talk about that day back
Wow.
then, and it's amazing when we ask them, when we have them do really difficult inner work on themselves to reflect on their childhoods, and we say, what were your top 3 positive memories? And so many of them say, I don't have any positive memories from my childhood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, there's got to be something. Like, didn't you have a birthday party? They didn't have birthday parties. They didn't have parents who tucked them into bed. They didn't. And I don't say any of this to create pity for them, because I think pity only hurts people.
Right.
But many of them came out of situations of extreme abuse and poverty and violence and generational cycles of incarceration. But it's not too late to experience joy. And they're they're able to experience, when you see in this photo where they're jumping up and like 5 feet in the air, they're
Yeah.
jumping with childlike joy because they didn't do that when they were kids, like some of us
Right.
did. So
Right.
thank you for creating that opportunity for people who never thought that they were worthy of experiencing joy.
I think that they're probably laughing at me because we did a little rap contest with it was us, the people that were volunteering, and against them, and we were all, you had music going and they were doing the spinning, and then I got in there and started spinning, and I couldn't get up because I had hyperextended my knee on the ground, and I was laying there, and I actually I really hurt myself.
So you got injured at a maximum security prison.
I
That's some
got
street
injured.
cred.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got injured.
yeah,
Yeah, and it was
yeah.
like, so they were, I'm sure that's there, yeah, I had no pity. This is the first day too, the end of the first day. The second day I was limping around. I couldn't even walk. And I'm not looking for any sympathy. So you're, let's go here. So I'm going to go back to here. And so, we've, my Reiko and I have, we've told so many people about this amazing, incredible program that you're doing, and the amazing person that you are, and your strength and compassion, and so how can our audience help? Because it's, there's one thing is like, you can go and, you can, volunteer and come into into the system, and for 2 days at one of the facilities that you're working at, and share. And the interesting thing is, Reiko, my wife, like I was kind of the businessy guy and kind of went in and we're doing, but Reiko said, what have I got to offer? It was incredible for her. It was almost like I just watched her. It was like she was like the mother hen, because these guys they don't have the contact with the female kind of mother, and the way they were engaging was just incredible. So the ability just to give of yourself, to help, and to be an ear is just it's incredible. So
Yeah.
how can
Every
people help?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, every last one of us is capable, if we choose,
Yes.
to provide hope and to believe and to see the positive qualities in another human being around us.
Right.
And so sadly, the pandemic stopped me
Yeah.
from all events. So I haven't been in prison in more than a year. And we don't have events planned right now. So
Right.
for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future, because COVID's a whole different deal inside prison.
And I was gonna ask about that. I
Oh
don't know. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
about
it's a
like, did
different.
it really affect any of the? Because I know
Um,
it got into some of the prisons, and it
in
did. It was amazing.
California, where I live, more than
Yes.
60% of people got COVID,
Oh
and
man!
in a
Wow.
few of the prisons in California, more than 90% of people contracted or got
Oh my
COVID.
gosh.
Yeah, and it comes in from the outside. It was from officers who bring it in, and many officers to this day, do not want to get vaccinated,
Right.
and so.
Right. Huh.
But thankfully, incarcerated people, at least in California now, have all been offered the vaccine if they want it.
Right.
But still, it'll take time for things to return to normal. But in the meantime,
Mm-hmm.
I am very grateful that we were able to pivot our model with Hustle 2.0 to continue serving, because it would have been all too easy to just stop and shut everything down and
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
stop serving. But we provide a correspondence style program. So what that means is in prison, there are college correspondence programs, for example, where a university can send you books and you study, you take exams in your cell, and then you send your homework in and you get credit. So
Mm-hmm.
we offer a similar opportunity, and we have a program that lasts a few years, 2 years, and people can take it. And if
Mm-hmm.
you are listening to this and you know anyone who's incarcerated anywhere in the world, in
Yeah.
Canada and the United States,
Yeah.
you can go to our website, which is hustle20.com, and you can, for $50, you can buy the
Yeah. Yeah.
program. It's called the preseason, and you can have it sent to anybody. But if you don't know anybody who's incarcerated and you want to make a difference, we would be really grateful for it. So especially during COVID, nearly every program was shut down in every prison, even like AA, church, like the stuff that they
Uh-huh.
regularly have.
Yeah.
Everything stopped and people were quarantined to their cells. Again, the size of an elevator. Yeah, 2 people
Oy.
in one elevator, no programs. So you can imagine the hopelessness. And
Yeah.
we field letters and scholarship applications from around the country. And I'm grateful to be serving so many prisons. It's an overwhelming demand. And I was having a conversation with Charles, my co-founder, 2 days ago, and overnight we got 25 scholarship applications from New York and Florida and Colorado and just different states of people who are saying, please, I've been locked up for 20 years and my system offers nothing. We have no programs here. And we have a program that's $50 and it's very accessible. So, $5,000 funds 100 spots. We would be really grateful for scholarships because we have done everything that we can. I went $100,000 in personal debt to start this program. I put my money where my mouth is, and to the rest of us, a seemingly very small dollar amount can bring great hope, great resources. It provides 12 courses to the person, and I can't believe how much a program, a book how far it can go. So I would be grateful for help with scholarships.
So that's what we'd love to do is, and we've, it's real, I just very fortunate to have a personal experience, because of you, to be able to go in, and it really, really, really does make a huge difference to our society. We're all in this. I mean, it's our society, and it makes a huge difference. And there just isn't anything available to help these people, for when they get out, and it's a benefit to all of us. And so, I'm just challenging people to, look at it. It's an amazing program. And if you can give $50, that's incredible. You can help us with a scholarship, or more. If you want to give more, everything is on the link we'll put here in the podcast release. And if you can give more, give as much as you can, because it's incredible. And, it's on our list every year here with Reiko and our family too, and to keep supporting Hustle 2.0 and Kat and what you're doing. And so I don't know, Dev. Go ahead, Kat. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, we just had a 20-year-old kid who has been incarcerated since he was 15. His sentence is for 80 to 120 years. And he just finished the program. So he's still at a youth facility. Yeah. And some people might say, well, why would we invest in him? Well, if he changes his life and his ways now, imagine how many more people he can mentor, because that's what happens. These guys end up mentoring others. It usually takes them a long time to smarten up. And so we try to reach them as early in their sentence as possible, so that we can help transform prisons from places of pain and punishment into places of healing and true rehabilitation, so that those who are coming home soon come home and become the mothers and the fathers. Nearly all of our people have kids. And imagine what it's like to be the child of an incarcerated parent. So we look forward to helping to send home people who are hopeful again, and who have employment skills, and who can start small businesses, and who can become neighbors that we are all grateful to have, because they're living a life of amends. And so many of them are, in fact, starting youth programs and helping to they don't just talk about it. That's something I love about the people we serve. They actually come home and they sincerely make a difference. So thank you. Thank you for believing in people who look different than you.
Well, like we said at the very beginning of the show here, is that under different circumstances, it could be any of us. It could be any of us there behind the different, if we were raised in those, I think it's all circumstance. And so Dev, do you have
I'm just excited to have you back on the show, and the world kind of gets back to normal and we can have another conversation, because this has been unbelievable. Wow. I'm just like shook here. It's funny at the beginning, you're like, we might have to edit around some of this. I don't know. No, that was perfect. That was unbelievable. I'm like, I'm
Thank
just
you.
absolutely wrecked. Hey, little cat. Anyways, with that, thank you, CJ. We're gonna wrap the show. If you guys would like to know more about Kat, we'll put the link in the description. Like Nigel said, please check out the book, A Second Chance for You, for me, for the rest of us, and check out the program. Other than that, thank you so much for coming on the show, Kat. Do you have any other last thoughts for us today?
Last thought is, yes, you can read the book that I wrote, but you could also
Yes.
go to hustle20.com. The book that we send to people in prison, you can actually order it for yourself. And there are tools in there. I guarantee you that you will learn about how to forgive yourself. You will learn about healthy relationships and boundaries. You will learn about entrepreneurship. You might learn some employment skills if you are out looking for a job, seriously. And also, the curriculum is co-authored by these incarcerated people, and you will read their really remarkable stories, and they are funny, they're entertaining, they will probably make you cry, and you will see some incredible prison recipes as well that you could try at home at your own house. So I encourage you to check it out for yourself as well, because I believe that you'll benefit from that book too.
Oh, thank you so much, Kat. That is just fantastic. Yeah. And again, you're just wonderful. You're a powerhouse in person. You're just this ball of energy, and you're just doing amazing, incredible things. And we thank you so, so much for doing what you do and for taking the time, because I know you're busy, for being in our show. So thanks, all the love, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you for using your voices and your network to make a positive difference in this world, to open the minds of people. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.